You stand in the cold with nothing but your skin. The wind finds every gap. Your fingers stop feeling like fingers. And somewhere in the darkness, an animal is wearing the thing that could save your life. For most of human history, clothes did not come from shops, factories, closets, or cotton fields. They came from bodies, from deer, bison, reindeer, rabbits, foxes, seals, goats, sheep, and whatever else your ancestors could catch. Butcher, scrape, soften, pierce, and tie around themselves before the weather killed them first. So how did Stone Age humans actually make clothes? The first surprise is that clothing is much older than clothing itself. That sounds strange, but it is the problem archaeologists face every day. Stone lasts, bone can last, charcoal can last, but leather, fur, bark fiber, grass, plant cord, and thread usually rot away long before anyone can dig them up. So your ancestors left almost no wardrobes behind. They left tools. A stone scraper, for example, is just a sharp-edged flake until you imagine it in a frozen hand. Its job was to remove fat, flesh, and membrane from an animal hide. A hide is the skin of an animal after the animal is dead. If you leave it wet and dirty, it rots. If you scrape it clean, stretch it, dry it, smoke it, chew it, rub fat into it, and work it again and again, it can turn into clothing. Not soft clothing at first. Survival clothing. The earliest outfits may have been simple cloaks. A large animal skin could be wrapped around the shoulders, fur side inward for warmth or fur side outward for rain and snow. It did not need sleeves. It did not need buttons. It only needed to keep your body heat near your body. But a loose cloak has a weakness. It leaks. Cold air enters from below. Wind gets through the sides. Snow works its way into the folds. If you are walking across open Ice Age ground, that loose hide may keep you alive for a while, but it will not protect your hands, ankles, neck, or feet for long. So the real revolution was not wearing skin. It was shaping it. Archaeologist Ian Gilligan has argued that tailored clothing became especially important when humans moved into cold environments. Tailored means cut and fitted to the body, not simply draped over it. In plain English, it means the difference between a blanket and a jacket. One covers you. The other moves with you. That difference could decide whether a child survived winter. To make fitted clothing, your ancestors needed three things. They needed material, they needed cutting tools, and they needed a way to join separate pieces together. The material came first. After a hunt, the animal was not just meat. The bones could become points and needles. The sinews, the tough cords that connect muscle to bone, could become thread. The hide could become a coat, leggings, shoes, or sleeping cover. Even the fur had to be chosen carefully, because winter fur is thicker than summer fur, and some animals shed water better than others. Nothing was waste. Then came scraping. Picture an ancient person kneeling beside a hide stretched across the ground. The air smells like smoke, blood, damp earth, and fat. A sharp stone flake moves again and again across the inner surface of the skin, too gentle, and bits of flesh remain, too hard, and the hide tears. Every movement has to be learned by feel. This is where clothing becomes knowledge, not one brilliant invention, thousands of tiny decisions. Which animal makes the warmest cloak? Which hide stiffens too much when dry? Which part of the skin should become a shoe sole? Which should become a sleeve? Which thread snaps? Which knot holds? A modern shirt hides all of those decisions from you. Stone Age clothing exposed every one of them. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, researchers such as Lucinda Backwell studied ancient bone tools from layers tens of thousands of years old. These were not metal needles from a tailor's drawer. They were shaped pieces of bone, some slender and pointed, made by people who understood that bone could do jobs stone could not. A pointed bone tool could pierce hide. A smoother bone tool could work leather. A tiny tool in the hand could change what a body could survive. But piercing hide is only the beginning. A hole is not a seam. A seam is a line of joined material. It lets two separate pieces become one larger thing. To make one, your ancestors needed cord. That cord might come from sinew, twisted plant fibers, animal hair, or strips of hide. The word fiber simply means a thin strand that can be twisted, braided, or tied. A single fiber breaks easily. Many twisted together become strong. This is one of the quietest technologies in human history. Twist, pull, wet, dry, twist again. A rope, a net, a snare, a baby sling, a bag, a belt, a shoelace, a stitch. All of these begin with the same idea. Weak strands become strong when they are joined. At Dolní Věstonice, in the Czech Republic, archaeologists including Olga Sofer and James Adovasio studied impressions left in ancient clay. The fibers themselves were gone, but their marks remained. Those marks suggest people in the Upper Paleolithic, the later part of the Old Stone Age, knew how to make cordage and woven or twined materials. Twined means strands are twisted around each other to make a flexible structure. It is simple to say. It is hard to master. So clothing was not only animal skin. It may also have been plant fiber. Belts, nets, bags, grass capes, linings, cord loops, soft padding inside shoes. Things that almost never survive because they were made from the most perishable materials on Earth. And that is why the rare preserved examples matter so much. Far later than the first Stone Age clothes, a man named Otzi died in the Alps more than 5,000 years ago. He belongs to the Copper Age, after the Stone Age in many places, but his frozen body gives a powerful glimpse of older skills that were already ancient by his time. He wore leather leggings, a coat, a loincloth, a grass cloak, shoes with soft grass inside, and a fur cap. Genetic work by Niall O'Sullivan and colleagues showed that different animals supplied different parts of his outfit. Goat, sheep, cattle, deer, and bear all had different jobs on one human body. That is not random. That is design. Shoes need toughness. Leggings need flexibility. A cap needs warmth. A cloak needs coverage. A pouch needs durability. A person walking through mountain cold did not simply wear whatever skin was available. He wore a system. Now imagine that system much earlier. Before metal, before farms, before written names. You are in a small group at the edge of winter. The hunt has gone well, but the work is not finished when the animal falls. Meat feeds the group for days. Clothing may protect the group for months. So the hide is removed carefully, because one bad cut can ruin a panel large enough for a child's cloak. Someone scrapes. Someone stretches. Someone gathers dry grass. Someone twists cord. Someone warms a bone point near the fire. Not to burn it, but to make it easier to handle in stiff hands. A child watches an elder push a hole through hide and pull sinew through the opening. The stitch is ugly at first, then tighter, then straighter. Then it becomes a line. What is being made? Maybe a mitten, maybe a boot, maybe a hood. Maybe the first real difference between moving north and dying there. The best clothing was probably built in layers. A soft inner layer could trap warm air close to the skin. Fur could face inward in extreme cold. A tougher outer hide could block wind. A cord belt could close the middle. Leggings could protect thighs from snow and brush. Foot coverings could be packed with grass or fur, because feet are easy to injure and hard to heal when every day requires walking. You do not need fashion to understand this. You need frostbite. Frostbite means body tissue freezes. Fingers, toes, ears, and noses are vulnerable because they lose heat quickly. A Stone Age person who lost toes could not travel easily. A hunter who could not travel could not help feed others. A mother who could not walk could not carry a child away from danger. Clothing was not decoration first. It was mobility. It let your ancestors cross cold ground, wait in ambush, sleep through freezing nights, carry babies, gather food in bad weather, and keep using their hands when the air wanted to shut the hands down. But then comes the twist. Clothing probably became social, almost as soon as it became practical. A warm coat keeps you alive. A decorated coat tells others who you are. Pierced shells, animal teeth, pigments, beads, and carefully placed fur could turn protection into identity. At sites across Ice Age Europe, ornaments appear with tools, burials, and camps. At Sunghir in Russia, children and adults were buried with thousands of beads. Those beads were not sewn by accident. Someone made them, placed them, and cared how a body looked. So a Stone Age outfit could say more than, "I am warm." It could say, "I belong here." It could say, "I am a hunter." It could say, "This child mattered." It could say, "This group knows how to survive a world that does not forgive mistakes." The most direct physical evidence for sewn hide is rare, because time eats clothing. But recent research led by Richard Rosenkrantz on material from Paisley Caves and Cougar Mountain Cave in Oregon has described late Ice Age sewn hide fragments, cords, and fine bone needles from around 12,000 years ago. That matters because it gives you something almost never preserved. Not just the tool, but the stitched material. Not just the idea of clothing, but the touch of it. Still, even that is late in the story. Humans likely dressed long before those fragments were made. How can anyone know? One clue comes from body lice. Lice are tiny insects that live on humans. Head lice live near hair. Body lice live in clothing. Genetic studies of lice suggest body lice split from head lice sometime after humans began wearing clothes regularly, because body lice need clothing seams and folds to survive. It is an indirect clue, but a powerful one. Even parasites can carry a memory of the human wardrobe. So the story of Stone Age clothing is written in scraps. A needle here, a scraper there, a fiber impression in clay, a strand of cord, a preserved shoe, a louse genome, a burial covered in beads. Each clue is small. Together, they reveal something huge. Your ancestors were not crude figures wrapped in random fur. They were engineers of the body. They studied materials without laboratories. They tested designs without measuring tape. They solved problems of insulation, movement, waterproofing, repair, and identity using stone, bone, skin, fiber, fire, and patience. The process could take days. First came the animal, then skinning, then scraping, then drying or smoking, then softening, then cutting, then piercing, then sewing, then fitting, then wearing, then repairing, again and again. A sleeve tears, a seam loosens, a shoe sole wears thin, a child grows, a winter deepens. Nothing about clothing was finished. It had to be maintained like fire. If fire went out, cold entered the camp. If seams failed, cold entered the body. That is why clothing changed human possibility. A naked human is a tropical animal with clever hands. A clothed human is something else. A clothed human can carry warmth into places the body was never built to handle. The Arctic, the steppe, the high mountains, the windy coast, the frozen forest. Clothes turned skin into a tool that could be upgraded. And all of it began with noticing. This hide is warmer. This stitch holds. This fur sheds rain. This grass keeps feet dry. This bone makes a cleaner hole than stone. This cord breaks unless twisted tighter. This child sleeps longer when wrapped this way. That is the real image to keep. Not a caveman in a ragged pelt. A person working by firelight, pulling thread through hide with aching fingers, repairing tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. When you zip a jacket, tie a shoe, pull on a hoodie, or choose a coat, because the morning feels colder than expected, you are touching a technology older than cities, older than writing, older than money, and maybe older than many of the stories humans tell about themselves. Your clothes feel ordinary because they are everywhere. But for your ancestors, clothing was portable shelter. It was a second skin. It was a way to carry the warmth of the fire away from the fire. And the next time the wind finds every gap, remember this: somewhere in the darkness, an animal once wore the thing that taught your ancestors how to survive.